I was able to get in touch with Julia once again and explain to her the assignment and that what needed to be observed on my end was how educators assess their learners. She personally wasn't all that aware of how the preschool she was at went about assessing, so she helped me set up a time to come observe, and we were both able to learn more about the process. When I first arrived, we learned that the educators in the preschool went about assessment in more of an observation way instead of a standard way. This resembles performance assessment, which, as defined by Sayland in Chapter 14 of the textbook, involves having students complete meaningful, complex, open-ended learning activities. These activities result in individualized learning goals. So when I asked what kind of things they were observing, I was told that these may be hard to recognize, but some examples to look out for included when it came to snack time, having the children try to pour their own juice with little to no help, or if when they were coloring they used a four-finger grasp, which looks like this. This confused me, but what this means is that when the children are holding their pencil, it's being observed, and when a child is developing their fine motor skills, they start to hold their pencil in a four-finger grasp, and so as their motor skills progress, they change from this, which is about what the stage that they're at in preschool, to holding your pencil like this, which most adults do. All these observations that take place are used pretty much for noticing if motor skills are being developed. When observing, I did notice that the teachers and classroom aides would hover around the children when they were doing tasks that may require assistance, but they tried very hard to let the children do the work themselves. After my observation time, I asked when more in-depth educational assessment is done. I was told that this really begins in kindergarten and continues from there. This makes sense to me because at the age that the children are at in preschool, it is necessary to determine if they have their basic skills, such as fine motor skills, before continuing into their education. Overall, at the age of the preschoolers, I agree with the educators' approach in observing and utilizing performance assessment because the way I see it, at such a young age, it is important to be able to develop your skills on your own and not grow up with an educator, teacher, or aide being a crutch for you if you are able to do the work for yourselves. Next, I took time to observe Miss Livingston's 5th grade classroom. The brief example of assessment I was able to see was the students taking a timed math test where they were given 5 minutes to try to complete as many problems as they could from a sheet of roughly 50 problems. The problems during this assessment were all multiplication and centered around multiples of 8. I remember having to do worksheets like this when I was in elementary school, so it was interesting to learn more details about the purpose of them after the observation took place. During the test, the instructor, Miss Livingston, tells the students when to start, and then she gave a 1-minute heads up, and then told them when to put their pencils down. When discussing the assessment afterwards, I asked how frequently tests like this one was given. Miss Livingston said they're usually given once every few weeks and alternated between multiplication and division at this age. I asked if different students were given different worksheets based on their math level. Her response was that the students in the 5th grade are broken up into levels based on their math skills, and during math time we'll change classrooms around to be in the same room as those at the same level as them. Therefore, all the students were at the same level and given the same worksheet. The purpose, I found out, of these worksheets is to set an initial level of understanding each child has for multiplication and division at the beginning of the year, and then to see how over the course of a year they improve. This method is very similar to dynamic assessment, which, when mentioned by OB and SAP, gives a pre-test and then an intervention or treatment, followed by a post-test. In this scenario, the first time the tests are given at the beginning of the year would be the pre-test, just to have a record of the basic level each student has for each subject. Then the remainder of the year consists of lessons and more worksheets to aid in and improve in test scores. Finally, the last test of the year, the post-test, is given, and the results are compared to the pre-test in order to measure improvement. When I was a student and had to take these tests, I never saw the point, but now from an educational standpoint, I do see the importance of seeing the improvement over time. Also, not only does this help engaging the students' development in their math skills, but it can also help the educators see in test results whether or not their lessons are effective in teaching the material to the students and what the students are or are not grasping. Therefore, if this is effective, which I can only assume it is due to the fact that over 10 years ago I was a 5th grader doing the same assessments, I agree with the educator's choice in assessments and don't see the need to change them.